every day they're changing something. My mom started crying. My mom was like, oh, they know I'm going to die. They want to give me 2 days to live.
Oh.
Yeah, it was such a big deal. Like everybody was on their toes.
Wow.
Like everybody was living on the edge because
Yeah.
it was a straightforward process, right?
Yeah.
It was one degree after the other. It was one bad news after the other.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Anya Fombat, and I spark the hard conversations that challenge questionable cultural and societal norms that threaten the well-being of the African community. And I also share stories about growing up as Africans in Africa and in the diaspora. I strongly believe that normalizing open discussions and sharing experiences, whether good or bad, will not only make you find your voice, but will broaden your sense of purpose and empower others to do the same. So if you have ever tried challenging certain African cultural and societal doctrines, or if you have ever felt like it is about time that we confronted these issues in our African community and do better as a people, or even if you have always been interested in learning about the experiences of other Africans growing up in Africa and the diaspora, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Living African. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living African podcast, and I am your host, Anya. Today, we will continue our conversation from season 1 on the topic of fibroids. This is definitely an ongoing conversation, so it will never end. And today, I am very honored to have one of our guests here. Her name is Hilda Ngelo, and she's originally from Cameroon, but she resides in the UK. So Hilda, I am so glad to have you on this platform for you to talk about your story with fibroids. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Anya. Thank you for having me on your platform. It's such an honor, and I'm glad to be here to share my story with your audiences. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking that time to come and talk about your story, because when I saw your story on BBC, I was very, very inspired. And I mean, I was mind blown as much as I was inspired. And to see that there have been like much strides in technology and just in health advancements that help women who have fibroids. I mean, I have fibroids, but my case was definitely nowhere near as serious as yours. And to see that, there have been so many advancements that have happened that, help women that have fibroids, that was very, very inspiring in and of itself. So I'm super stoked and super excited to, have this conversation and really get to know your story and get to further understand basically your experience as you went through that process of healing. So can you please just tell us about yourself, your story, and then we will go into the story with fibroids.
Absolutely. Fibroids is a topic I'm very passionate talking about. But before we dive into that, I'd like to give your audience a bit about myself.
Yeah.
You rightly say my name is Hilda Ngelo, but, popularly known as Mami P. That's a childhood alias, and it's one that I use across my social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call myself a tech girl. I work in IT. Mm-hmm. So I bring digital transformation to organizations that are transforming from paper system to a paperless system. Mm-hmm. That's my day job. And, in my spare time, I like to see myself as a content creator. So I write about fashion, especially African fashion, and how to get into the, up market. And, I like to report on trends and just lifestyle and stuff like that. And now I'm adding health onto my resume, which is,
awesome.
I really want to do moving forward.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that. So let's just dive right into it. Can you please tell us your story with fibroids? Like when you were first diagnosed with fibroids and like how many of them were there? How serious was it? Just the whole story.
So my story with fibroids hasn't been a straightforward one, knowing that we both come from Cameroon, how the health system is back home. So I do believe I've had fibroids from as early as when I was a teenager, and that's when I was in secondary school. So I started experiencing a lot of abdominal pain, especially during my period when I was in high school. At the time, there wasn't any diagnosis. There wasn't any, treatment for it. There was no information about fibroids. All I knew was the fact that I had very painful periods.
Yeah.
Go on every month. Some months I would be lucky not to have them. They were so consistent. I knew that something was definitely wrong with me. It wasn't just the fibroids, even though I didn't know there were fibroids at the time. I had other complications, like I couldn't eat as much as other people were eating, so I could only eat little portions. My understanding now is that, because they were growing, I didn't have enough space. So each time I suffered a lot from bloatedness. So I didn't always want my tummy to be that big. So I started eating really small portions. And that's how my journey with fibroids started. It wasn't just the pain, but it affected so many things around me. And when I went to England in 2005, this process continued, like painful periods and heavy bleeding, backaches. I became really anemic. So I started suffering from iron deficiency anemia, which was as a result of the fibroids. And I was referred to clinical hematology, where I had to receive like iron infusions. And I later on had a diagnosis, and I was told, I think around 2007, that I had fibroids. And they tried to manage it, during that period. I had a couple of scopes. I had hysteroscopies where they send a camera, from down below and try to scrape them out. They did that a couple of times and it didn't work. It just came back. And in 2010, I had my first open myomectomy, which is an open surgery. For fibroids.
Yeah.
And I remember back when I had the surgery, the consultant that was seeing me said to me she was going to go in and try and remove as many of them as possible, but she would only take out the big ones. So unfortunately, during that time, there wasn't information about fibroids. Nobody was talking about it. And it was just one of those things where people would say, oh, it's, that has stomach pain. It was being referred to it that way.
Pain, yeah.
And people were not really talking about it, I think, because of all the stigma that with, women suffering from fibroids and their uterus, and especially a woman who hasn't had children. So I think people were really paranoid, especially the women that suffered from fibroids. And even within the healthcare system, there wasn't, information out there glaring at us saying this is fibroids, educate ourselves about it. So after my surgery, I was discharged and, I carried on with life. And for 3 years, I was okay. And then it came back. And unfortunately, after my procedure, I didn't have any follow-up care. Monitored me to see what was happening. So I carried on living and, I was just dealing with the pain, and I moved houses. So I left from where I had my first surgery and I moved to another area in London. So the way it works, they have to transfer your medical files to your neighborhood, to stay in, so your care can be transferred to your local hospital. So when I moved to my to where I'm currently staying, I registered with the doctor. They started monitoring, the pains. It wasn't really the fibroids they were trying to take care of. And I would have usual episodes of painful periods, heavy bleeding. I would bleed for about 2 to 3 weeks nonstop.
Yeah.
Backaches, sleepless night, and, anemia most of the time, really tired, short of breath, and all of those things. And it just kept on going back and forth. And during this period, the doctors tried to perform another scope to go in and scrape the fibroids. But at that time, they said they were a bit big and they couldn't be removed, using that method. So they tried to put me on a Mirena coil, and I'm not sure what happened with that coil. I think it probably came out during one of my heavy periods. It probably popped out and I never knew. So it didn't really do anything. It didn't rectify the problem. It didn't manage the problem. It did not control the problem. So
yeah. And let me just interrupt you just one moment, please. For those who don't understand what Mirena is, right? That's the birth control, right? It's called an intrauterine device. So it's an IUD that they have to insert in there. And I think fibroids too are influenced by hormones, right? So usually with that birth control, it keeps a consistent level of hormones in the body. And also, of course, it makes your body think your body is pregnant or something. So you don't have to, you cannot get pregnant with that as well. But I mean, it also has other purposes to stabilize those levels of hormones. So with the Mirena that was put, it's like a T. You can Google it. It's like a T or Y, however you write. And it's being manually inserted into it. And it actually could come out. And that's what you were saying, that, it just popped out and you had no idea.
Yeah, so you've beautifully articulated exactly what the Mirena is all about and what happened. So it popped out because during my periods, during my cycles, I have really heavy bleeding.
Yeah, that's the contractions.
Yeah, so it could have come out and I didn't know. So I sat one day and realized that I had a lot of pregnancy symptoms, like I was looking really plump, I was glowing. I started putting on weight and people were saying, congratulations. I was like, I'm still having all the pains and, my stomach is still growing big and I'm still bleeding. So something must be wrong with this coil. It's not working and I'm just putting on weight. So I went back into the hospital and they examined me. It wasn't there. I had a scope after that procedure, caught an infection, stayed in hospital for 2 weeks. It was the same cycle back and forth, just going into hospital when I was in pain all the time, coming back with painkillers to manage the pain. And I remember one day I was leaving the hospital and I met a doctor, a gynae doctor, and she said to me, I should not accept another surgery. I should the pain. It's not good to have too many surgeries. Mm-hmm. So that stayed in my mind. What I was thinking is, if this lady says this to me, she probably knows what she's talking about. She said this off the record, right? And I was like, she probably knows better than me. She's a doctor, she sees a lot of patients all the time and she knows what's going on inside me. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, I really shouldn't have listened to her because no doctor should be given unsolicited advice outside of a clinic setting. Mm-hmm. So I listened to her, unfortunately, and I decided I was going to control my pain with painkillers and not have another surgery, especially because my first surgery wasn't an easy one. I was in a lot of pain thereafter, and I didn't like the experience. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go through surgery again. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to deal with the pain and, cope and survive whatever it takes. So I stayed that way and everybody was like, oh, she has fibroids. She's always in pain. And that was my lifestyle. Yeah. That really, really affected me in the way I lived my life because, I missed a lot of events. My friends had events I couldn't turn up, guys, girls, family. And I'd gotten to a place in my life where I'd become tired and frustrated from explaining my private life, which means it costed me relationships. My health costed me. People didn't understand what was happening. Most of the time, I was sick for like 3 weeks. Because I've got this social media profile, it deceives people that I'm living a certain kind of life. Because I'm barely surviving. I was all pain. I was always bleeding. I didn't even like to visit people and spend nights in their houses because I didn't want a situation where there would be an accident. I'll wake up embarrassed. Yes. So I stayed in my own corner, and those who knew what was happening, they knew, and those who didn't understand, is what it is. So fast forward to 2019, there was a situation in our family where I had to be a donor for somebody, and I went to the hospital to have a full body screening before I could donate one of my organs. And this wasn't my hospital, by the way, so it was the person receiving the organs hospital. So I went there. When they did a scan for me, the doctors were alarmed. They were like, what's the reason you're here again? And I was like, I've come in to donate my organ to a family. And they were like, that's not going to happen. So I started crying. I was like, no, I need to do this. I want to do this. It's something that I really want to do. They said, we understand that you want to support your family, but you cannot do it because you need urgent medical attention. So they wrote 3-page letter to my own hospital, to my own doctor, referring me urgently and telling them what they had seen when they ran my scan. So during that period, hospitals were, overflowing with COVID patients. So it was just focused on COVID cases and everything else was put
secondary,
on hold.
Yeah.
So because my case was urgent, even though it was urgent, but, they were more focused on the COVID patients. I had a scan. I was very, very lucky to have a scan. And unfortunately, my doctor went on holiday. So I went to clinic to see one of her registrars, like a junior doctor. He tried to interpret the results, but I wasn't convinced, because the only reason I wasn't convinced was because I'd been to another hospital and they made my case really serious. So it's not because the junior doctor wasn't giving me accurate information, but she just wasn't seeing what the other people
were seeing,
because she's got more experience and all of that. So I was told to hang on and wait for my consultant to come back from holiday. So it was a waiting game. When she finally came back from her holiday, she gave me a call and she said, Hilda, listen to me and listen carefully. This is very serious. On that day, I was at home with my mom and I sat in the bedroom because I didn't want my mom to, hear what was going on, especially because a lot had gone on in the family during that period. And it was just a really stressful period health-wise. So I didn't want to put my mom in that situation again with my own health, even though she knew that, there were issues. But clarity the doctor was explaining was a whole different level of urgency. So she went, I've looked at your scans and you've got 45 fibroids. I was like, what? 45? How is that possible? She said, yes, you have 45 fibroids. And unfortunately, she kept on going. She said, unfortunately, this is not what I thought it would be, and it's not something that I can manage. So I have to transfer you to the right people, with the right skill and look after you. So before she went on holidays, the plan was she wanted to know the exact locations of the fibroids. So when she comes back, she was thinking she was going to do like a keyhole surgery, like a really small surgery just to take them out.
Yeah.
She saw the scans, when she saw the scans, because remember that all she had was a report without any scans, so she didn't really see the full picture. So when she did her own scans, she was alarmed and she was like, this is above my pay grade. This is not something that I can do. So she had to refer me to, somebody that was more clinically qualified to look at my situation. And that took another couple of months because they had to have like a multidisciplinary team meeting to assess the situation and decide on the best course of action. Yeah. So that took a while. Again, it delayed my care. And finally, I had a letter from the other clinical team that I was referred to saying I needed to come to see Mr. Quinn, who's my now consultant, the one that was on BBC. So I started seeing Mr. Quinn, and the first thing he said when he saw me, because the plan was for me to have this procedure in April of 2021. Yeah. That was the initial plan. But based on the sizes and number of fibroids that, they saw, everything changed. Wow. So when I was referred to Mr. Quinn, the first thing he did was to put me, I had an injection I've forgotten what the name is, but the purpose of the injection is to help and shrink the fibroids, also to prepare me for surgery. Injection lasted for 6 months. So basically what the injection does is it induces the body to menopause. So I was clinically induced into menopause. April to September, I just sat at home waiting for that injection to kick in. And I was going through this, menopausal period. But basically, the purpose of the injection is to stop the production of estrogens, like you explained when you were talking about the Mirena coil. And so I was basically going through menopause to shrink the fibroids and to reduce bleeding during surgery because of the number of fibroids that I had. During that period, my clinician reached out to me and I discussed, because of the number of fibroids that I was told I had, I expressed my concerns and what I wanted to do with my health situation. I thought, as bad as this may sound, I wanted to raise awareness about, fibroids. Yeah. If I have 45 fibroids, it's because, the God that created me wanted me to use them for a purpose. Yeah. So that's why I decided to go to the BBC to do this documentary, because if you look at the media, there's not enough information on fibroids. And there are a lot of women that suffer from fibroids, but they're not courageous enough to talk about it.
Yep, that's true.
I'd suffered for such a long time for me to be ashamed. There was nothing to be ashamed about. At least upon myself. And I didn't want other young girls to suffer the way I'd suffered in the past. Yeah. I just felt like I needed to start talking about fibroids. Yes. There's no way I'm going to have 45 fibroids and not talk about it and not raise awareness and let, people know that this is what women are going through. Yeah. Don't somebody when you see them. Right. Don't that you don't understand. Right. Because from a condition like fibroids where there's not enough information and education around it, people have assumptions. Yeah. People jump into conclusions like, why is she always tired? Yeah. One day I was walking with, somebody and they said to me, why are you breathing like an old lady? I was really, really upset, but I decided to just put myself together and kept going. And it was just comments that, during this period, like for a woman my age, I think my HB needs to be around 13. So around those levels. But my HB was always in the levels of 5 to 7. That's the maximum. Yeah. So and can you explain what HB is? If I'm right, I think it's hemoglobin. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it was always really, really, really low. Yeah. Really low. So I was always short of breath. I remember once I went into hospital and they said to me, I could have had a heart attack. Yeah, because you're overworking your heart. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just going through those periods and suffering. So I said to myself, if I've got 45 fibroids, I think our hospitals need to start, talking a lot more about women's health and not just say it's painful periods. They're going to go away and then I have to just carry on with life, because this didn't only affect my health, it affected my career in a way, because I didn't change jobs because I didn't want to go to a new environment and start exposing my medical history to strangers. There were days at work where I had a lot of accidents and things like that. So it was hard for me to progress in life in so many ways. Yeah. So this did not only affect my physical health, it affected my mental health. Oh, yes. It affected development. It affected my relationships. And when I had this diagnosis, I was like, I need to do something about this. Yeah. And fortunately, the 3D technology was being developed at the time. Yeah. And it was the perfect opportunity for me to show people what fibroids really are. Yes. And the beauty of this is when the hospital saw my scans, they only saw 45 fibroids.
Yes.
Right? When I had the filming in the hub, wearing the 3D.
Yeah, the 3D virtual reality, yeah.
The results were different. They saw about 90 fibroids and above.
Yeah, that's double.
That's double. And listen to this. They had seen the fibroids before I even got the opportunity, because I'd given them consent for my doctors to give them my results so they could use the 3D and, just the augmented reality and look at my scans. Before they had information that I didn't have. So, and this was a week prior to my surgery. Wow. So my doctor was really, really concerned because he was trying to manage my mental health.
Yeah.
I was also going through menopause.
Yeah.
And I was about the surgery. I was unwell. The first time in my life I really knew I was unwell was the day that the previous doctor rang me and said, I have 45 fibroids. Because I'd been, I became used to just living with fibroids. So it didn't occur to me that I'm unwell. I just thought it was part of my life. That was my own life. That was adapted to it. And, I just got on with life. But on that particular day, I realized that there was something wrong with me. I was really unwell. I looked at myself and I could see that I was ill. I was very, very ill. But because I was just going. Yeah. And going, nobody stopped me. Those around me, they were used to me the way I was. Yeah. And nobody stopped to say, you know what, there's something wrong with you. We need to get this, sorted out. Until that day, I had that phone call. So when I went to that hub, even though my doctors and everybody had seen the scans before I got they took me into the room. I wore the 3D headset and, we went through all the conversations where I was asking doctor questions and he was answering them. If you've watched the video, if you haven't, it's on the iPlayer for those who haven't watched it. And it's called Your Body Uncovered with Kate Garraway. So it got to one point where Dr. Goody was the other doctor on the program. She went, so how many fibroids can we see from the scans? And my doctor said to me, there are over 90 fibroids. I was like, whoa.
So that was the first time you were hearing it?
Yes, that was a week before my surgery.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and there were over 50 people in that room, like the camera crew. Yeah. There were about cameras, lighting technicians. It was a room full of production crew. Yeah. And I was at the center with 2 doctors and we were going through all of this. And I was trying to keep it together because this was a week away from my surgery.
Your surgery. Oh my goodness.
Doctor was so concerned about my mental health. He was really, really concerned, but I convinced him to come on the program because it meant a lot to me to use that platform to raise awareness. Yeah. And even though I've complained about my career not moving forward, I feel like this has been the best thing that I'll ever achieve in my life. Wow. It started a lot of conversations.
Yep. Like this one, right?
Absolutely. Which is why I accepted to come to your platform because I believe it is our responsibility to raise awareness, not just raise awareness, but to get, researchers, our hospitals, our governments to start, actually looking at the root cause of fibroids because surgery is really not a cure. Yes. It's just around. It's a temporary fix.
It's a Band-Aid, patching it on the wound, but it doesn't take off the scar, right?
We want a long-term solution. We need to know what causes fibroids, which is my prerogative. Like surgery, if you've listened or watched the video, Mr. Queen says, there's a possibility that it might come back. So even though I've had surgery, still living in fear, I'm living in doubt. I keep praying every day that it doesn't come back. But at the back of my mind, I know it could.
Yeah.
So that's why we have this conversation going.
Yeah.
Something to be done. We need to get to the root cause of, what causes fibroids.
Yeah.
Anyway, going to the hub. So filming went well. They showed me the number of fibroids. They laid them on the table inside. I'm guessing you saw that.
That was one of the most freaky things I saw. I'm like, whoa, and they laid it like in sizes. It felt like this medical chart that I see on the walls that they laid, like, they have like, or even a geographical chart, like the different planets and like in the universe, Earth, Jupiter, Mars, and all of that. That was crazy.
Yeah. And that was just the virtual representation of it when we were still at the hub. And they showed me that they did the same thing after my surgery where they lined them up on a table like it was there. And the funny thing is, normally when I see things like that on social media, I don't look at them. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's too graphic.
Yeah.
I never look at things like that. And I always try not to look at pictures of fibroids because I'm not one of those people that go on the internet to research, like look at their illness. I feel like it just makes things worse.
Yeah.
So I try not to do that. I really don't do it. So this is the first time that I came face to face with fibroids, even though I've lived with fibroids for such a long time. I've never gone on the internet and I'm, search for them. Never. I have somebody that in the family, that always sends me like, try and take this medication, like natural remedies.
There's always that one person, right? In every African family.
Like she was just looking for ways to help me, Mm-hmm. But I didn't do it because I wasn't going on the internet because I didn't want to see images of fibroids. I never wanted to see them. I knew if I saw them, I'll stop eating meat.
Yeah.
And even see them, I reduced how I was eating meat in the past. So I just thought in my head, they look like fibroids, like meat. So I don't, and when I eat meat, I throw up.
Yeah.
So it affected my life in so many ways.
Yeah.
And, when we went into the hall, they showed me everything. And I tried on that day, I tried to put myself together, not to break down. When I was told they were 45, I said to myself, it cannot get any worse. They already told me it was 45.
Yeah.
That didn't kill me. 90 is not going to kill me. I need to look for a way to beat this thing.
Yeah.
So I had to be really positive, I needed to stay strong because of my doctor. I had to show him that I was willing to fight them.
Yes.
Because on myself, he would have probably given up on me, but I had to give hope. Yeah. So when he saw me, when he saw those 90 fibroids, he changed my surgery again. So for the second time, he changed every preparation that he had been doing for my surgery. Wow. So they had given me surgery date. When I was doing the filming, I knew my surgery was supposed to be on the 8th of September. That was my surgery date. But after my doctor saw that those fibroids were not 45, they were above 90, he changed everything again. He had to change the theater that my procedure took place. So I was booked to go into a theater. It's a very good hospital. It's a teaching hospital. It's one of the best hospitals in London. But then case was moved to like an even bigger theater. They needed more people at the hub. For those who haven't watched the documentary, you could see that my bladder was flattened. So they showed me side by side comparison of a normal bladder, a normal uterus with mine next to it. And you could see that my bladder had become really flat, which means I was going to, pressure. So I couldn't hold urine for a long period. Hold as much urine as somebody with a normal bladder. So I was going back and forth into the loo like 3 times in an hour. I wasn't sleeping at night because I was constantly passing urine. There wasn't enough room for me to hold urine. I was even worse than a pregnant woman.
Wow.
There was pressure, and one of the veins that takes blood up to my heart was becoming damaged.
Compressed,
because the fibroids were sitting on them and pressing them. So anything could have happened to me during that period.
Oh my goodness.
Anything. Might have not been the fibroids. It could have been like a collateral damage, like something else could have failed, because they were so big, there were many of them, and there wasn't enough room again, inside of me, because they were occupying every space that was in me.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, we went for my surgery, and on the 7th, because my surgery was booked for the 8th, on the 7th, my doctor gave me a call, and he was like, Hilda, I want to let you know that I've changed your surgery date to the 10th. Can you imagine? I've been waiting for this surgery for over a year.
I know.
Every day they're changing something. My mom started crying. My mom was like, oh, they know I'm going to die. They want to give me 2 days to leave.
Oh.
Yeah, it was such a big deal. Like, everybody was on their toes.
Wow.
Like, everybody was living on the edge, because it was a straightforward process, right?
Yeah.
It was one degree after the other. It was one bad news after the other. But the good news is, with the augmented reality, they were able to see exactly where the fibroids were and how many of them were there.
Yeah.
So my doctor time to do a lot more planning. And with a surgery of this magnitude, based on the numbers, the locations, and the fact that it's around my uterus, the risk, like any other person.
Yes.
There's a risk, a hysterectomy, which is, you can take out your uterus and I might not be able to have kids in the future if that happened. So doctor had to replan everything. He brought in a bowel surgeon. He brought in a heart surgeon. I had 3 anesthetists in the room.
Wow.
I had so many nurses, and this guy was fantastic, honestly. Even though my surgery was delayed, right?
Yeah.
It was delayed for reasons.
For a good reason, yeah.
It was delayed for the right reasons. And I can only be thankful that I had somebody that took my care so seriously and wanted to give me another chance at living like the normal, healthy life again. Yeah. So he changed everything. When he changed my surgery the last time, when he said he's moving it from the 8th to the 10th, I was down already, because I was anxious, I just wanted it to come and go.
To be over, yeah.
That was 2 more days to, go through that again.
Yeah.
But my mom, the way African moms are, she was like, oh, they know I'm going to die. They just want her to have 2 more days with me.
They just don't make it any better. Oh my gosh.
She decided that she was going to get ill at the same time.
Oh.
So I started feeling bad that I'm putting my mom through all of this.
Yeah.
Everybody lost their appetite.
Oh.
Everybody, I was trying to make people laugh, but they could see that I was dying. Oh. They could tell that it wasn't easy, but it was really, really hard. But my surgeon was fantastic. Anyway, the 10th finally came, and my whole family took me to hospital.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, my mom, my siblings, my sister-in-law, they took me to hospital. And when I went there, the doctor had said to me, Mr. Queen had said to me, they were going to give me an epidural.
Yeah.
To stabilize me. And I've heard women who've had children talk about epidural, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not having that. This is not going to happen. Like, I wasn't even scared of my surgery. I was more scared of epidural. When the anesthetist to come and talk to me, I said to the guy, you know what? I'm not really worried about the surgery, because you're going to knock me out and you're going to do what you have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this epi might stop this surgery from happening. There's no way I'm going to have it. I don't like needles. So, and I've heard that the needle for epidural is really, really big.
Really big.
He had to give it to me to make sure that I was stable, and I wasn't in any pain.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to manage my pain, like from when I wake up and all of that. So they went and had a meeting, and then they came back and said, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to off, and then we'll give you epidural.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the care and compromise they did for me. They did a lot to make sure that I was comfortable,
Yes.
I was stable, before going into surgery. They wanted me to be at ease.
Mm-hmm.
And when they said that they were not going to give me epidural when I was, still awake, I was really happy. So I walked into that room. I was just confident. And I said to my doctor, I know the risk that this surgery comes with. It's not an easy surgery. You're going to be taking out over 90 fibroids. And I want you to do the best that you can do. This is what I said to him.
Wow.
If you have challenges while I'm asleep, I'm not going to wake up to tell you what to do. I know you're going to make the best decisions for me. If you have to save my life over my uterus, please make that decision. Whatever decision that you make, I believe is going to be the best decision.
Oh.
And the reason in this is because women shouldn't be defined by their uterus, right?
Yeah.
A gift from God. And nobody is going to define me because I have a child or not. I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Irrespective whether I have a uterus or not. Right?
Yeah.
And I want my doctor to do his best. I didn't want him to stay there and try to fix a uterus. And then in the process,
cost your life.
It doesn't make sense. So my life is more important than an organ, an organ that is very useful.
Yeah.
But if I can still live a happy life,
yeah,
irrespective of what that outcome may have been, I'll probably go through therapy. I have a lot of support.
Yeah.
And I'll come with it, then I'll still have life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not right. There's so many women that are suffering from fibroids.
Yes.
And this is here because already society is pointing fingers at them saying, the barren, they've got fibroids. We need to stop it.
That's true.
We need to be more empathetic. We need to show a bit of concern. We need to be kind to people.
Yes.
We can't put women to their uterus.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Women can offer.
Yes. Like I'm having goosebumps right now. I'm like, there's nothing more to say. Mic drop. Like you said everything, but everything that you said, it has even uncovered so many issues and so many other subtopics that, exist in our community. And I'll try my best to address most of them. I say most because, like we've really spoken about a lot, but I guess that, the topics will be coming with time. Now let's take it back all the way from the start, right? When you were first diagnosed, how many fibroids did you have when you were diagnosed?
I cannot remember.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. Like I said, right, at the time, what I know today, I didn't know back then. I didn't even have the confidence to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what my doctor said. I didn't have the relationship that I have with my current doctor at the time, that doctor. So asking the right questions.
Yeah.
I wasn't the right information.
Yeah.
And have the right support system. So I was just another patient. I was just another hospital number.
Yeah. 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 Because
number that they just wanted to, perform the surgery and discharge and, get the bed ready for another patient. So care didn't exist when I was first diagnosed.
Yeah. And you know what? That's also why, I've said this before and I will keep saying it, right? Because in our African community, especially, we're not used to, I would not even say the culture. We're not used to the culture of making informed decisions, especially when it has to do with our healthcare. Because back home, you don't question the doctor, right? Whatever they say is what is on stone. Fine print on the stone. Like, do not question the doctor because you're questioning their intelligence. Do not advocate for yourself because you're trying to be the doctor. The doctor would literally tell you, like, if you want to be the doctor, you can be the doctor. I'm telling you, this is what it is. So we don't have that culture of, asking the right questions. We don't even know if it's the right question or not because we are met with aggression in return from the professional. So a lot of women go through so much, especially in a different world, like in the Western world as a whole. A lot of women go through so much and they are so afraid, like the doctor or the health professional will give them a chance to ask questions, but they are so afraid to even ask because they don't even trust themselves. They don't even, just when you've been treated in a certain way for too long, it's hard for you to see life a different way, right? So, and that also contributes towards discouraging us to even do that research. Like, okay, what is this fibroids about? Like, why would they even open me up? Goes to the point of opening me up because sometimes, it depends on the size and the number of fibroids that determines if they give you surgery or not. And usually those surgeries, like you mentioned as well, are very risky. So why would someone open me up and almost be at a high risk of taking out my uterus to take out fibroids? And I don't even know, or they don't even tell me how many fibroids they're taking out or why they're even taking it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then when they close you back, they're telling you there's a chance that it will come back to from what, like, I think you had mentioned that they said they were taking out just the bigger ones the very first time. So how many bigger ones do I have? How many small ones have the risk of growing back to become bigger ones? All those things, it's like, when you see that they don't tell you, first of all, it just speaks a lot to how the health system has advanced till now that, a lot of people now are realizing that, we need to ask these questions.
We really should be asking the right questions and supporting those that are unable to ask this
to ask the questions. Yes.
Which is why we're doing this, because I know that so many women, so many young girls in underprivileged societies where they don't understand what's going on in their bodies. They don't even know, to ask. And like you rightly say, when they come face to face with these medical professionals, they don't want to challenge them because the culture is you have no right to ask the doctor any questions.
Yes.
I think clinicians should be able to listen to patients. Provide accurate information to them. And if the patient doesn't understand, get somebody that can understand that information and, break it down to the patient in a language that they better understand to make to decide on the best course of treatment for them, because no two cases are the same.
Yes.
We should be talking about this. We should encourage women to talk about how they feel. Yeah. We should encourage to talk about, where the pain is coming from. It's not just period pain.
Yes.
It's fibroids. It's more than that.
Yes. Yes.
There were other destructions that were due to, the sizes of the fibroids. It's not just period pain. Yes. So allow them to express themselves when they're going through these things. So, you can go back or do your own work and provide the best, treatment for them.
Yes. And I mean, now that you said that, it just brought another thing I was thinking about while you were talking before. Remember back in boarding school, especially in Cameroon, and I would think in many other countries, and not only necessarily in boarding school, I just say boarding school just because we both went to boarding school and that's where we spend most of our adolescent lives in school. And you had all these girls that always had like extremely painful periods and they would scream and they would cry and periods were so heavy. And some of us probably thought, they were just exaggerating or using it as a way to go out of school, or sometimes it was just normal. When we just hear a girl crying very loud, we just know it's that time of the month and we're like, oh yeah, it is that time of the month. And we didn't even think about, could this girl be sick? Could this be something? We just know that, the periods are worse in some girls and not in other girls. You know what I mean? But all of these things, if we took them more seriously, or at least in order for us to take it more seriously, we have to be informed, right? We have to learn. I feel like we need to even be taught these things as young as possible, because any girl that is in her reproductive ages, in terms of like any girl that starts seeing her period can have babies, right? Hypothetically speaking. So if you're seeing your period and the fibroids, especially fibroids being something that is unknown, it's been such a mystery to health professionals to really know the source of fibroids or even like who can have it or who cannot. I mean, so far they know that, it's probably genetic. If your mom had fibroids, chances that you will have fibroids are very high. And it's also very prominent in Black women or, just other races apart from Caucasian. So it's really low within the Caucasian women or the Caucasian race, So things like that, if we knew those things as young as possible, in order for us to catch those symptoms, I feel like the diagnosis will be higher and we will tend to do more about it at an earlier age than wait to the point of you giving an organ. How many people give organs? How many people get those scans? You know what I mean? So, I just think about all the girls in Africa or Cameroon, because I'm more familiar with Cameroon since that's where both of us are from. All the girls who have died because the fibroids just grew and grew and grew and grew, and nobody, first of all, the doctors, I mean, how many specialists do we have that, could attend to every single woman, And then, we're so used to having those communicable diseases or those infectious diseases like malaria, just the symptoms, headaches and all those things that we tend to ignore the women's issues, right? And then we probably visit them when it's too late or when something, a comorbidity happens, like, heart problems or tiredness, or somebody just passes out from low blood hemoglobin levels or low iron levels. And then that's when they discover that, oh my God, this person has this other thing. So it just makes me really wonder how far we have to go and how much work we have to do.
When I was in lower six, I had an appendectomy.
Yes.
And when I think it was a misdiagnosis, because I was having this, fibroid symptoms, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And remember if any proper scan was done. But
they just felt the pain and they took out your appendix.
Yeah, I just went into hospital. I said I had pain and they said, oh, we'll operate upon you. And I don't want to go into details because I can only tell you today sitting here that it's the grace of God that I'm alive. Because it's really, honestly, it's the grace of God, because I don't know what diagnosis was done. I probably had fibroids and I had, my appendix taken off instead of the fibroids. And there wasn't any scan or anything that I can remember, that I can think of. And the preparation for the surgery was, a whole lot of nightmare. Knowing what I know today and what I went through back then, I can only tell His grace, because there's no way I should be alive.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. I mean, we need to go a long way ahead. One thing, when I watched that video, I mean, first of all, I will include a link to the video for the documentary for people to watch in, the note section of this episode. But when I watched, how many this guy took out of you. Well, first of all, when I watched the video, when you were in the hub looking at, virtual reality of all the organs, I was like, wait a minute, where's her stomach? Where is her liver? Where are her intestines? Where is her bladder? Like, I just saw only fibroids. Like, fibroids just filled the entire space. And I was like, how have you been managing? How have you been living? Like, this must have affected your quality of life so much. Like, I had chills. I was like, what? And to know that, I mean, the highest number of fibroids that I've heard someone had was 32. And when the guy said he found 10 more than 90, which is 100, I was mind blown. Yes. And I was like, first of all, I screamed when he reassured you that, like your uterus was not touched and everything. And I was just like, oh my goodness, we have come a long way with technology. We have come a long way with just advancements. And I was so proud. I mean, I'm a healthcare professional and I was so proud of healthcare. And I was so proud of you, like when you were talking about your story and, you were such a very good patient. I feel like most doctors, would appreciate you and the way you handled that situation. In this situation, is a doctor that had to motivate you, is a doctor that had to care more about you, but you actually cared about also motivating the doctor. You cared about encouraging the doctor, which is such an important aspect in healthcare because, sometimes when you give the professional that much confidence, they feel more comfortable addressing you unlike if you were just stressed, like they'll be very, very stressed up and very anxious handling you if you were just, freaking out and giving them a hard time. So I just want to thank you on behalf of all health professionals. I just want to thank you for that. And just for your bravery, man.
It is a health professional. Like, I get what you're saying, but sometimes we don't, even though we have complaints, the system doesn't always work the way we want it to work. Mm-hmm. Constraints, within healthcare, like any other institutions, sometimes they're understaffed, there's a lot of pressure, but, these people, I don't know how you do it. I can't even care for myself. I cannot do it. It's not in me to nurse, somebody, mm-hmm. but other people to dedicate their time to care for us, in that level, things that I'm not sure I will be able to do. Yeah. These people dedicated their time, and that's why my recovery was so quick. Yeah. And the care that I received, I cannot even say it. I cannot put it into words. Everything that they did it with purpose. They did it with intention. It wasn't just me going to work today. I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
They wanted me well, and it wasn't just physically, it was mentally. And, after my surgery, I was up and about, doing what I wanted to do, taking pictures. And my mom did not believe what she saw.
Yeah.
She thought I was pushing myself. I was like, no, I'm fine. There's a bit of pain, but I just felt like a new person. There was a rebirth. I felt brand new. I had renewed energy. I was happy. My skin changed. I become like, my face was just white because there wasn't blood circulating in my body.
Wow.
I was sleeping at night. I was up all night going into the toilet, but now I'm having normal sleep. I'm eating well.
Yeah.
I'm going out. I'm doing things that I didn't do in so many years. So I can only say thank you to the medical professionals because it is down to them.
Yeah. Wow.
It's also recreated that relationship that we wanted this to work.
Yeah.
And I can only say I was fortunate as well with my care, my doctor, and he is really happy that, I am his patient. I've seen him after I've had so many follow-ups. I've been to clinics. I've had 2 other MRI scans since after my procedure. And the result is fantastic.
Awesome.
My H back to normal. It's what to be. My vitamin D levels is up and fine. So I'm under active monitoring in the hospital. So I have a follow-up appointment coming. Those are things that I didn't have in the past, but now I have them because I'm in a position, and like you say, medicine has advanced to a level where I'm able to communicate with my doctor, and he's able to listen to me, and he's put in place like measures to make sure that he can manage and monitor me and don't let what happened in the past happen again. So
thank you so much for sharing that. If you're okay, we can also add the contact information for your doctor and just the team that helped you, just in case any other person wants to visit them. And, because one thing I noticed, it didn't even occur to me until I had my own doctor on, because I've spoken about fertility issues twice with my own OBGYN or is it gyno, as you guys call it. And I was like, this is definitely an opportunity for people who are listening, especially people around my area, to go to her and also talk about their issues. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening. These doctors are there to be at the service of patients. And, just from the way you're talking, you will be surprised at how many more women are struggling with that. And that will be an opportunity for your own doctor to be of service to them as well. So if that's if only and only if you're okay with that.
My doctor is very, very happy to see anybody that's suffering from fibroids or have symptoms. So since after the program, his secretaries had a lot of inquiries. There's so many reaching out to him. And when I saw him in clinic, he was very happy. His name is Stephen Quinn. And if you just go into Google and type in his details, Dr. Stephen Quinn, I'm also going to details so you can add on the link. Anybody who wants contact, because why not?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for that. Now, another thing that I really wanted to point out in the conversation that we had, like the story that you were telling me, is something that's very important. And I always try to point this out because that is also one of the goals of my podcast, to make sure that we show more empathy to one another. That's something that we utterly lack in our community, especially in our African community, because we tend to dismiss a lot of the issues that people are going through, sometimes not intentionally, but that's just the way we talk, right? Like when you said you went to work out with your friend and somebody asked you why you were breathing like, is it an old woman or something like that? And I was like, that's very insensitive, regardless of whether the person knows what you're going through or not, right? And I've spoken to a lot of other friends, like a friend of mine who was going through a mental breakdown or relapse. She had psychosis, and someone tell her, oh, just because you're going through mental health, it doesn't mean our life should stop. Or you've started that your craziness again, things like that. So sometimes it could be your loved ones actually that will say that, and they're just saying it in a very joking way, but it's actually not.
It would be the people that are closest to you that would say things like that, and think it's okay. It's really not okay.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, why are you breathing like an old woman? You could be like,
are you okay? Yes. Are you okay? Because you were breathing heavily, right?
The elevator rather than go up the stairs, There's so many things to say rather than just, bring down somebody.
Yes. And that's very dismissive of what you are going through. It's like they don't even care about what you're going through. They just throw it out there, and it's very, we and that's why people are so afraid to even talk about their mental health, because, that statement could really affect your mental health. Or it could make you feel bad, worse about the situation, and they don't know about it. And then, of course, if you want to tell them and call it out, they'll be like, oh, I was just joking. You're so weak. You're so sensitive. Things like that, So I really, really hope that, I really wanted to point this out to just let us know, especially members of our community, to know the little things that we do that could literally affect somebody in a very bad way and in a very major way as well. So let's always learn to watch our words. I personally am still working on that because I am literally a straight shooter. What you see with me is what you get. Like, I would tell it as it is. But sometimes I have learned to show empathy, to put myself in that person's position and see if I would like to be spoken to like that, So I really want us to be very sensitive, because after hearing your story, I'm sure whoever said that, they would probably feel the worst, if at all they even remember they said that. Most of the times they will not even remember they said that, because it's just a way of speaking. But that's why I want us to change that way of speaking and do better, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, you briefly talked about how your life is now. You're back to, your skin is glowing. I can see that for sure. Funny enough, I didn't even see... It was hard to tell that your skin was any different before, just because I wasn't aware of what you were going through. Maybe I would have, I wasn't looking for a problem, so I didn't see one on you, if that makes sense, So can you tell us more, like, how much your life has changed, especially when it has to do with, the things that you used to do before, if you are doing them now, and, just how life is in general?
I'm getting more sleep, and I'm sleeping at night. It's the little thing. I'm not talking about big things. I'm getting a full night. I couldn't sleep before. My period just came and I was like, oh, like there were no signs it's coming, no pain whatsoever. And now I'm having regular periods. I'm just thanking God for the bare minimum.
Amazing.
This is it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so pains, it comes, it lasts for 4 days, and it's just like a little bit of bleeding here and there, and I can wear whatever to wear. I'm sleeping at night. I'm not rushing back and forth. It's just those little things that I'm grateful for. Yeah.
Wow, I'm so grateful for that too, and I'm so glad that you shared that as well, because there are so many women that actually suffer in silence, and I hope that this conversation will bring back that spark, like will make them to rethink their decision to just suffer in silence and not talk about it, and also to encourage them to take it more seriously, because so many more women are going through a similar situation and they probably will not talk about it. So what advice will you give them?
Please speak up. Speak to somebody you trust. Find somebody in your circle that you trust. And if there is nobody, please do reach out, because I'm here to listen. I'm here to help, advise you, point you in the right direction if I can. Your information will be treated as confidentially as possible.
Yeah.
We don't play people's health information.
Yeah.
We don't make light of people's situations. But please don't suffer, because this might affect your mental health.
Yeah.
Could affect you if you're not talking. If you're in pain, please go to a hospital.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Place where I didn't even have pad, like I didn't have
sanitary pad.
I've run out of them in this country at home. I'd run out of them.
Wow.
Honestly, there were days that I didn't have them, and I would call somebody to bring them. I'm not even joking. This is making me emotional. Wow. I had one of my scientists. She had to send her daughters to come and give them to me.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you need things like that, please reach out. I've been there myself.
Yeah. Wow.
I've gone down, and it's not an easy journey. So
it's not. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. It's like, I just have a rush of chills continuously from head to toe, because I mean,
topic that I'm so passionate about, because I've been there. I've been that girl.
Yeah.
That girl.
Yeah.
And how is it possible that I wouldn't have a, sanitary towel at home? Because I have nothing left for me to wear.
Yeah.
And I called one of my cousins, a guy, he's in Manchester, it's like 4 hours away from me.
Yeah.
Crying. And he had to call his auntie in London to come. And unfortunately, this was during COVID, and she's unwell as well. Wow. And she, oh my gosh, it was just horrible. So please, I don't want anybody, to go through this. And this is the other thing. When I was so unwell, I had to focus my energy to the right place, because I felt like, my life was falling apart. Mm-hmm. That's when I started finding my scarves. Yeah. So if I have Diamante scarves, and I've done one of these into a headband.
Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Thank you. I had to do something to keep me going, something that was nice, something that wasn't, causing me pain. So I started designing the scarves, and the point is to use a percentage, about 10 to 15% of that, to, help young girls that are unable to afford,
sanitary towels. Yeah.
The bare minimum. So
yes.
For anybody to support me, you can buy one of my scarves, and I'll be using that to support a young girl in Cameroon.
Yeah. For sure. I definitely will include all of that information in the bio of this episode. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I was just about to ask, if you have anything that you're passionate about that, you wanted to share, which I thank you for answering the question even right before I asked. But I definitely hope to support you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I will also put your information on how the audience can reach you in the show notes of the episode, so people should reach out to you as well. I mean, is there any last words that you have for us before we end the conversation?
I really want to thank you, Anyo, for what you're doing in our community. Not a lot of people are able to do what you're doing. You're a young girl, you're a new mom, you have your own challenges. Yeah. You have a family. You have your child that you could be spending time with, but you're using your platform to, educate people, to raise awareness, to, to make the world a better place. So I really want to thank you for what you are doing, because, not everybody is doing it. Not everyone can do it. And you're very good at what you're doing. So thank you so much. I've been listening to your podcast, and, I've learned a lot from it, and like you say, we all work in progress. We should learn how we talk to people, especially on subjects that we don't understand.
Thank you.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening to our show. If you want to participate in the show or find out more helpful resources, then visit www.livingafricanpodcast.com for more information, or email us at hello@livingafricanpodcast.com. Also, don't forget to connect with us on all social media platforms at Living African Podcast. You can also connect with Anyo directly on Facebook or Instagram at Anyo Fambard. Thanks again for listening, and let's not forget to be more understanding and nicer to one another.